Hello Africa and the rest of the world, welcome to Continental Prime here on News Central Television, reaching you live from Lagos, Nigeria's commercial capital. I'm Sulaiman Alede. The headlines for this hour. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has assured Nigerians that elections will hold as scheduled in 2023. Somali army kills at least 25 AL-SHABAAB militants in the central region of the country. Uganda's president vows to defeat criminals involved in the attempted murder of a former army commander. Details shortly. We begin in Nigeria. President Muhammadu Buhari has assured Nigerians that elections will hold in 2023, assuring that there will be no third-term agenda. The president gave the assurance today after a meeting with the leadership of the Independent National Electoral Commission. President Buhari also issued a warning to those threatening the security of the country, saying they will soon receive the shock of their lives. Now, the president said the service chiefs and the inspector general of police have been charged to secure the country. Now, he also promised to continue leading the country in accordance with the constitutional provisions. Now, staying in Nigeria, the State Security Service, military and the police have been asked to form a synergy and carry out an investigation into the continuous unrest in the southeast region of Nigeria. Retired Commissioner of Police Frank Odita decried the killings and attacks on police formations. The security consultant also appealed to the governors in the region to make funds available for security agencies to enable them gather intelligence reports on the challenges and find lasting solutions. Ms. Odita said that the sit-at-home order by the indigenous people of Biafra is illegal since the group has been proscribed by the government of Nigeria.
It requires a synergy. It requires a synergy, actually, because it's a security problem. Let it not be left in the domain of the police only because the police stations have been bought. It's a federal government, there are federal government institutions. Same thing with INEC offices. So I expect that by now, the army, the police, the SSDC, the DSS, they all put their heads together. They are all there in Imo. They are all there in the southeast. They put themselves together and do what I call intelligence-based policing.
While staying in Nigeria, the Irigwe people of Plateau State in Nigeria's north-central region have demanded an end to open grazing by herdsmen and pastoralists. Now, they say despite the recurring attacks on their communities, which have left hundreds dead in the last few years, no culpable herdsman has been arrested by security agencies. They also add that they believe that temporarily halting open grazing will bring an end to the crisis between native farmers and herdsmen, which has defied every attempt for a peaceful resolution.
Paid and have been allowed to mourn and grieve on our own, as if we do not have those at the helm of affairs seeing and watching these nihilists unleash terror. In a continuous brutal show of force by Fulani militias against wicked people, nobody has been arrested. Not even investigated or prosecuted according to the law of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Even with the names of suspects who perpetrate this evil, this callous act or barbaric act, there is no action that has been taken by government. As a nation, we are poised and therefore demand for the following from Bassa local government, Plateau State and the federal government. That the Fulani herdsmen be asked to temporarily suspend grazing in Irigwe land This will enable our people and the cadres have a dialogue in order to come to a compromise. Because this grazing has been fingered to be the major cause of this mayhem.
Now, Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory Administration has tasked staff to be diligent in repositioning the administration to make service delivery accessible to residents in the country's capital. The FCTA, while rewarding outstanding members of staff, frontline workers and other critical stakeholders for the year 2020, says it is committed to encouraging those they have demonstrated uncommon passion and exemplary conduct in the course of their duties, especially during the peak of COVID-19. Now, the Minister of State for the FCT, Dr. Ramatu Tijani, says that the awards are expected to boost the morale and promote productivity in the service.
Don't compete to be boosted to the best of places. Compete with your inner self to be the best. That is what FCT is talking about. Congratulations,
with this motive, I expect that most of our will be women, not partially, but with every standard coming clear with their contents.
Now, the Burkinabe army says it neutralized 8 militants and captured 3 others in an ongoing operation in the north and east regions of the country. A statement from the army on Tuesday said the operation was carried out by soldiers and troops of the Burkinabe battalion of the G5 Sahel Force on Friday near the northern town of Tasmaka. Now, the army described the operation as an offensive reconnaissance mission, adding it seized weapons and materials. Now, insurgent attacks in the country has claimed an estimated 1,300 lives and caused more than 1 million people to flee their home. In Central Africa, UNHCR and partners are assisting displaced people who have fled the volcano eruption in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. The assistance comes as thousands have been forced from their homes as lava flowed towards the town of Goma. Many crossed the border to neighboring Rwanda. Mount Nyiragongo volcano has erupted in 2002, killing over 200 and displacing more than 100,000 people. It is among the world's most active and dangerous volcanoes. Now, in East Africa, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni has vowed to defeat criminals who shot and wounded a former army commander, killing his daughter and driver. Now, an army spokeswoman described it as an assassination attempt on General Katumba Wamala and said security forces are investigating phone calls that may provide leads. Footages and images of the attack were circulated on social media. Some images have also emerged of the alleged shooters being caught on CCTV. Now, the attack on the current government Minister of Works and Transport, who's also headed Uganda's police force, is one of many high-profile shootings in the country. In recent years, victims have included a magistrate, a Muslim cleric, and a politician. None of the murders has ever been successfully investigated or prosecuted. Now, Kenya is celebrating the 58th edition of Madaraka Day, which is marked on June 1 every year. Now, the day is in recognition of when Kenya gained self-rule in 1963 before gaining full independence on December 12 of the same year. President Uhuru Kenyatta used this year's occasion to remind Kenyans of their individual freedom, which has been expanded, and called for more participation from the people. He went on to say that the independent institutions of the country have gained their rightful positions. He also noted that the country's constitution, being one of the most progressive constitutions in the African continent, should be able to go through some form of tweak.
Today we celebrate close to 6 decades of self-rule. We celebrate the return of our liberties, the restoration of our dignity, and the restoration of our democratic rights. We celebrate the return of our liberties, the restoration of our dignity, and the restoration of our democratic rights. We celebrate the return of our liberties, the restoration of our dignity, and the restoration of our democratic rights. We celebrate the return of our liberties, the restoration of our dignity, and the restoration of our democratic rights. We celebrate the return of our liberties, the restoration of our dignity, and the restoration of our democratic rights. We celebrate the return of our liberties, the restoration of our dignity, and the restoration of our democratic rights. We celebrate the return of our liberties, the restoration of our dignity, and the restoration of our democratic rights. We celebrate the return of our liberties, the restoration of our dignity, and the restoration of our democratic rights. We celebrate the return of our liberties, the restoration of our dignity, and the restoration of our democratic rights. We celebrate the return of our liberties, the restoration of our dignity, and the restoration of our democratic rights. We celebrate and the democratic resilience that we have brought over the last 58 years. Today we also celebrate the war heroes who gave their all, including their lives, for us to be free. And has Kenya occupied its rightful place in the society of nations as a result of our improvements? I believe that that is the national question of the day. And in response to this question, I will use the 4 frames of our liberation struggle that have informed my administration. The first is economic. This frame is informed by the notion that political freedom in the absence of economic freedom is nothing but an illusion. Given that the founding fathers stood for economic inclusion and the administrations before mine was about economic recovery, my administration has embraced the maxim of economic acceleration.
While still on Madaraka, we spoke earlier with News Central's East Africa correspondent Abdul Aden on the significance of this day.
Of the Madaraka Day celebrations, which is a day when Kenya took self-rule from the British colonialists. It is a commemoration that is a public holiday marked across the country. And for this year's event, it's for the first time happening in the lakeside region of the country in a city called Kisumu. The previous year, it wasn't celebrated in a public event. But this year, in a 30,000 seater capacity stadium, only 3,000 invited guests have been allowed inside. The rest of the Kenyans will be following the events or the proceedings from their television sets at home or in different places. This is also part of measures to contain the spread of the pandemic, because Kisumu had also reported a spike in the cases, and the president has been in that region for the last 2 days, launching various development projects.
Many thanks, Abdul Nur. Now, in the Horn of Africa, the Somali National Army says its forces killed at least 25 AL-SHABAAB terrorists during a sting operation at a village in Hiran region. Somali Army Chief Odoa Yusuf Rage, who is leading a security operation in the region, said on Tuesday that the forces also seized several weapons and other military equipment during the operation at Silabasad village in Bulabute district. Rage noted that the death toll on terrorists could be more, since many militants escaped with serious injuries. He added that they were still collecting information on the possible number of casualties. Now, staying in the region, the United Nations Food Agency says more than 90% of people in Ethiopia's northern region of Tigray are in need of emergency food aid. In a statement, the World Food Programme said the percentage represents about 5.2 million people. The agency, in the statement, also appealed for $203 million to boost its efforts in the region to save lives and livelihoods after the end of the year. WFP says it has so far provided emergency food assistance to about 1 million people since it started distributing food in March. Now, in Northern Africa, Germany has announced that it will host a new set of Libyan peace talks on June 23 in Berlin, with Libya's transitional government due to attend. Now, the Foreign Ministry said in a statement on Tuesday that the next steps needed for a sustainable stabilization of the country will be discussed at the conference. Talks will mainly focus on preparations for national elections planned for December 24, as well as the withdrawal of foreign troops and mercenaries from Libya. They will also look at the creation of unified security forces for the North African country. When the news returns, we'll bring you updates on the coronavirus pandemic across the continent as Ethiopia records 10 new deaths. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now, Ethiopia has registered 196 new COVID-19 cases in the past 24 hours, taking the nationwide tally above 271,000. The country's health ministry said 10 new deaths were reported, bringing the country's death toll to 4,165. The East African country reported 1,190 more recoveries, taking the national count to over 238,000. Now, according to the ministry, Ethiopia currently has over 28,000 active COVID-19 cases, of which 399 are said to be under severe health conditions. Now, Ugandan police have arrested 2,124 people who are due in court to face charges of flouting COVID-19 prevention procedures and curfew timings. Now, the police says that the suspects were arrested in different parts of the country as the force continues to enforce the pandemic prevention procedures amid a surge in the number of cases. It said 445 motor vehicles and 2,088 motorcycles were impounded for violating the curfew night timings. Police said the focus is now going to be put on ensuring that in public transport, trading centers, congregations at worship centers and weddings, among others, are following the prevention procedures like social distancing, hand washing and wearing a face mask at all times. Algeria is set to open its airspace again after a 14-month suspension due to the coronavirus pandemic. Now, the North African nation would allow flights to and from a few countries with some conditions imposed on arrivals to reduce the risk of a rise in COVID-19 infection rates. One of the conditions includes a compulsory 5-day hotel quarantine. This announcement comes as a sort of relief for some Algerians in diaspora, though land and sea borders remain shut. In Morocco, the number of people fully vaccinated against COVID-19 has reached over 5 million on Tuesday. Now, this is according to the Moroccan Ministry of Health. So far, over 8.7 million first doses of COVID-19 vaccines have been administered in Morocco. Now, the country launched a nationwide vaccination campaign on January 28 after the arrival of the first shipment of China's Sinopharm vaccines. In the meantime, Morocco's COVID-19 tally rose to 519,610 as 394 new cases were registered during the past 24 hours, and the number of recoveries increased by 403 to 507,528. Now, the death toll from the coronavirus in Morocco rose to over 9,000, with 7 fatalities added during the last 24 hours, while 216 remained in intensive care units. Nigeria's federal government has commenced efforts aimed at repositioning its fire service department. Nigeria's Minister of Interior, Ralph Arigbesola, while commissioning recently procured state-of-the-art firefighting equipment in the country's capital, Abuja, says that the equipment are part of a 10.4 billion naira infrastructure upgrade approved by Nigeria's federal government. Mr. Arigbesola says the equipment are purchased to transform current approach to firefighting with the protection of lives and property of Nigerians as government's ultimate aim. Beg your pardon.
Part of the 10.4 billion infrastructure upgrade approved by the Federal Executive Council on the 3rd of March this year, comprising of 44 firefighting engines, 15 water tankers, 15 rapid intervention fire engines, not conventional ones. They are smaller and easy to maneuver intervention vehicles that could enter any nook and cranny where there is fire. Those ones are still coming. That are going to any nook and cranny to respond to distress calls and 20 basic life support ambulances. The ambulances in particular are an innovation to firefighting, and the first time in the history of this country that any firefighting department will acquire this type of assets to protect life and guarantee safety of people. First time.
The issue of fire service falls under the concurrent responsibility of both states and federal government. The federal government has in the last few years assumed increasing responsibilities in providing these equipments, while realizing that the states are not adequately meeting their mandates in this regard. It is hoped that this trend will change in the near future.
These assets cost a huge sum, and we must handle them with care to avoid any damage while carrying out our duties. The commissioning of these assets today and subsequent deployment to commands will position the service for better service delivery while sending a signal to the general public of the administration commitment to protect lives and property. Let me also use this medium to inform the general public that currently our operational scope has spanned all the states of the Federation and FCT, and further reiterating the commitment and assuring the Honorable Minister that before the end of this year, we will commence deployment of our personnel and assets to the 72 remaining senatorial districts to further position the service for optional service delivery in line with international best practice.
Still ahead on the news, WHO approves China's Sinovac vaccine for emergency use. We'll bring you details of this story and more. Join us again. Now, the World Health Organization has validated the COVID-19 vaccine developed by Chinese pharmaceutical company Sinovac Biotech for emergency use. Now, WHO Director General Tedros Ghebreyesus made the announcement on Tuesday. He hailed the Chinese manufactured vaccine as being suitable for developing countries that still have poor infrastructure. Sinovac is the second Chinese vaccine to gain approval from the WHO after Sinopharm was given the global body's official support on May 11. It is now the 8th vaccine to receive emergency use listed by WHO. The main Sinovac biotech trials took place in Chile, Turkey, Indonesia, and Brazil. In the meantime, the United Nations has announced 0 daily COVID death within 28 days of a positive test for the first time since March 2020. The latest figures also reported another 3,165 new cases, compared with 3,383 on Monday and 2,493 a week ago. It comes amid concern over a recent small rise in cases linked to the variant first identified in India. Reports of daily death are often lower at weekends at the start of the week, and a death that happened on Tuesday will be reported in the days to come. Now, a reward to apprehend shooters on the run in Hialeah, a city north of Miami, has climbed to $130,000. Now, the 3 attackers fired into a crowd of concert goers on Sunday, killing at least 2 and injuring over 20 others. Police have released CCTV video of the trio emerging from a white van. Police say the attackers used rifles and pistols to fire indiscriminately into the crowd outside the venue. Now, no arrests have been made, and officials say the dispute may have been sparked by a rivalry and was not random. Now, in looking at the business stories in Uganda, the shilling has appreciated by 6.3% against the dollar year-on-year and 1.95% in the month of May. The rise is linked to the depreciation of the US dollar globally, coupled with the increased inflows in Uganda by investors. Now, Adam Ngume, Executive Director of Research at the Bank of Uganda, said the country has been receiving strong forex inflows attracted by yields on government securities in comparison with yield obtainable on safe haven investments in advanced economies. He said the domestic demand for dollars is still subdued, although recovering, adding that the domestic demand for dollars is associated with import demands. For the rest of the news, Tululokwe has more.
Welcome to Business on NC Continental Prime. I'm Tululokwe Adelari Balogun. We start in the southern parts of the continent, where South Africa's unemployment rate rose to a new record high of 32.6% in the first quarter of 2021 from 32.5% in the final quarter of 2020. This is according to figures released on Tuesday by Statistics South Africa. The number is the highest since the quarterly labor force survey began in 2008. The latest figures put the number of unemployed South Africans at 7.242 million in the 3 months to the end of March. Shoji Akinlabi, economist and the CEO of Africa Business Radio, had this to say about the data coming out of South Africa.
If you look at the number, talking about the last quarter of 2020 and, of course, the first quarter of this year, there's hardly a noticeable change because in terms of the number of employed people, about 50 million thereabout, but the only decrease there is around 28,000 people compared to that of first quarter. On the side of the unemployed person also, the change is also not quite noticeable. It's just an increase of probably just 8,000 people. According to the figure by Start SA, about 7.2 million people are still unemployed in terms of the recent number that they noticed. So it's hardly noticeable the kind of changes that the first quarter shows. And also, if you look at what the analysts' expectations were, it's also quite, a good number because it's not as much as the analysts had expected it to be.
Now moving to West Africa, Nigeria's state-owned oil company NNPC has announced that it is considering purchasing shares in at least 6 privately controlled refineries in the country to conform to a government directive. In a statement, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation says it is seeking an equity stake in the 650,000 barrels per day facility that Aliko Dangote, Africa's richest person, is building outside Lagos. It is also seeking a stake in 5 other refineries that are in the development phase to promote national energy security. In March, Nigeria's government approved a $1.5 billion revamp of 2 NNPC-owned facilities in Port Harcourt that have the capacity to refine 210,000 barrels of crude per day. The privately held BUA Group recently also announced plans to build a 200,000 barrels per day plant. The choice of foreign education is on the rise for many African students. At the moment, many students are studying in India because of the relative ease and the low cost of education there. But do African students stand a chance with employment after education? Omolola Ololade has more in this story.
There were about 25,000 African students enrolled in about 500 Indian public and private universities. Sudan and Nigeria are among the top 5 contributors of foreign students to India. Despite the contribution made by the international student into the country's economy, the Association of African Students in India expressed their disappointment with some of the government policies that are not favorable to foreign students.
It's difficult Because even us as medical students, the Indian government is not even giving us a license to practice in India upon graduation.
These students have admitted that affordable tuition is one of the reasons they are studying in India. They are complaining bitterly about the non-existence of employment opportunities for African students upon graduation.
I cannot communicate. It's really difficult. Even some of my classmates, it's difficult to communicate. So imagine if I have to work in India. It's a problem for me. I cannot.
To be able to work as a professional here, you need to be really qualified. So most of us just come for undergraduate studies, and the most masters. A couple of us go for PhD. But then if you want to get a job in India, you have to be really qualified. The smaller jobs are preferably given to locals here because of language and also the ease of the task to do that.
However, in many African countries, a lot of Indians either have their own businesses or huge employment opportunities, but the reverse is the case for Africans in India, particularly those who studied in India. Omolola Ololade, reporting for News Central.
Kenya is expecting more than 100 billion Kenyan shillings in loans from the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund beginning in June. This comes as the country seeks to secure more debt suspension for its economic revival plan. The Central Bank of Kenya said that the disbursement of 75 billion Kenyan shillings, about $750 million, from the World Bank is expected in about 2 weeks, while another tranche of 41 billion Kenyan shillings, around $410 million, from the IMF would be received further down the line. The CBK's Governor Patrick Njoroge also said that the country expects to receive another loan from the African Development Bank. However, he did not disclose the details of that loan. And that's it on business right here on NC Continental Prime. There is more news coming your way. Do stay with us. I'm Tolulakwe Adeleru Balogun.
Well, many thanks, Tolu. In sports, we are in the transfer season, and so far it seems it's the managers who are making some of the news-making moves. Now, for more, let's turn to Onyinye Obaro.
Thank you, Sulai. Now, in the world of sport, we're going to start with the good news from Real Madrid, as Carlo Ancelotti has been named the new coach of Real Madrid. Of course, this is coming just from the Twitter handle today, the announcement coming at this time that Carlo Ancelotti will be the new coach of Real Madrid. Ancelotti previously dismissed reports of a return to the Bernabeu as a successor for Zinedine Zidane, but sources close to Everton board at Goodison Park had indicated that the move to lure the 61-year-old back to Spain is close to being sealed. Ancelotti has previously managed the club between 2013 and 2015, but has been in charge at Everton for the past 18 months. The Toffees finished 10th in the Premier League table last season and missing out on the place in Europe in the process. Now, moving on to nominees from the English Premier League, Liverpool forward Mohamed Salah has been nominated for the 2020-2021 EPL Player of the Season award. The Egyptian joins Manchester City's title-winning Kevin De Bruyne and Ruben Dias, as well as Tottenham's Golden Boot winner Harry Kane. Other nominees include Manchester United midfielder Bruno Fernandes and Chelsea's Mason Mount, West Ham's Thomas Soucek, and Aston Villa's Jack Grealish. Of course, the winner is decided by votes from the public combined with those of 20 Premier League clubs, contains a panel of football experts. Eden Hazard has denied claims he wants to return to Chelsea this summer, insisting that he's determined to prove himself at Real Madrid. Now, the Belgian has struggled in La Liga since his club record transfer of 130 million euros in the summer of 2019. Things have not worked out for the 30-year-old, with injuries and a loss of form limiting him to just 21 starts in 2 campaigns. Away from that, Karl-Heinz Rummenigge is stepping down as Bayern Munich's chairman 6 months earlier than anticipated. Rummenigge was due to leave the Bundesliga champion at the end of 2021, but has brought forward his departure to June 30. Former Bayern and Germany goalkeeper Oliver Kahn will take over from Rummenigge, who has been a Bayern's board for almost 30 years. Rummenigge is reported to have argued for a change to be made earlier to avoid the 2020-2021 season being split under two different leaders. The 65-year-old also played for Bayern for 10 years and made 95 appearances for West Germany, winning the European Championship in 1980. And now to motorsports. South Africa's Brad Binder has extended his contract with MotoGP outfit KTM until 2024. The 25-year-old won his first race in the top tier during his maiden MotoGP season last term, after coming through the ranks with the team from Moto3. Reacting to the deal, Binder says he's super happy as he's 8th in the overall standings after 6 rounds of the campaign. Now finally in sport, 5th seed Elina Svitolina survived a scare to beat teenage debutant AL-SHABAAB in the French Open first round. The Ukrainian fought back from a breakdown to the second set to triumph 6-2, 7-2, 7-5 over the 17-year-old who was playing in her first senior Grand Slam appearance. Babel led 5-2 in set 2, but Svitolina won 5 straight games to progress. Svitolina will meet Ann Lee in round 2 after the American trashed Russia's Margarita Gasparian 6-0, 6-1. And there you have it, sport update at this time. I am Onyechi Obaro. But Sulai, the news about Naomi Osaka's withdrawal from the French Open just to safeguard her mental health has been making the rounds with a lot of criticisms.
Well, I think basically the world should be concerned about everyone's mental health. And well, if the superstar is saying something that bothers her mental health, the world should have listened to Naomi.
Thank you so very much, Sulai.
Well, many thanks, Onye. Now, up next is entertainment news with Sam Dandy.
Thank you very much. And now to entertainment news. Over the past weekend, BET Awards announced nominees for majority of their awards, including the highly celebrated Best International Act category, which has spotlighted many African artists in previous years. This year, Burna Boy and Wizkid are both nominees in the Best International Act category, among 6 others. They're not the only Africans in the category. Tanzanian Diamond Platnumz is also up. The category has 1 Brazilian, 2 Britain acts, as well as 2 French singers. While it's super competitive, it's no news that Burna Boy has won this category in the last 2 years, back to back, after the award title was changed from Best International Act Africa to World.
Best International Act.
And the BET Award goes to...
Haha! Burna Boy!
We also can't forget his mother's/manager's speech that year.
The message from Burna, I believe, would be that every black person should please remember that you were Africans before you became anything else. Thank you.
The BET Award for Best International Act Africa was initially given to honor the outstanding achievements of international artists from Africa every year, before it was then combined in a category called Best International Act World. Wizkid, Davido, and Burna remain the most awarded with 2 wins each. Wizkid in 2012 and 2017 in the African division, Davido with 1 in 2014 African division, and the other in 2018 with World. Burna Boy has won both awards in the World division. Other African winners include Tuface Idibia and D'banj in 2011, Ghana Sarkodie in 2012, Ice Prince from Nigeria in 2013, Stonebwoy in 2015, and South Africa's Black Coffee in 2016. Back in 2015, Nigerian musicians Wizkid and Yemi Alade, as well as Fuse ODG, who is of course of Ghanaian descent, took to social media to call out BET for disrespecting African artists. The artists expressed disappointment over the network's consistent choice to give African artists their awards backstage at a separate ceremony. At the time, neither BET nor BET International released any official response on the controversy. On the positive note, the other nominees for this year's award include French singers Aya Nakamura and Youssoupha, also Brazilian act Mcida, British act the rapper Headie One, and duo Young T and Bugsy. The award ceremony would be held on the 27th of June and internationally broadcasted on the 28th. BET is awards established in 2001 to celebrate African Americans in music, acting, sports, and and other fields of entertainment over the past year. And they've also contributed in more recent times against the fight for COVID-19. Today, they've opened opportunities for fans to get vaccinated and to be a part of the show's audience, a move that has gotten positive feedback. Well, that's all entertainment. I'm Sam Dandy.
Now, the 2020-2021 La Niña event has ended and neutral conditions are likely to dominate the tropical Pacific in the next few months. Now, this is according to the World Meteorological Organization. Now, the temperatures are expected to be above average between June and August, especially in the northern hemisphere. There is a 78% chance of neutral conditions in the tropical Pacific until July, decreasing to 55% by August to October, and with more uncertainty for the rest of the calendar year. La Niña refers to the large-scale cooling of the ocean surface temperatures in the central and eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean. For more on rainfall and sunshine conditions for tomorrow, we turn to our weather desk. Well, that's it on the news. But before we go, a quick look at some of the major stories. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari has assured Nigerians that elections will hold as scheduled in 2023. Somali army killed at least 25 AL-SHABAAB militants in the central region of the country. UGANDA'S president has vowed to defeat criminals involved in the attempted murder of a former army commander. You can follow us on social media, and our handle is News Central TV. You can also download our mobile app on Google Play and iOS. You can also watch News Central live in Start Times channel 274, AVO channel 223, and YouTube live. Many thanks for watching. I'm Sulaiman Alede.